Hello students, today I am Mrs. Priyanka Sharma will teach you class 9th Civics chapter 1 what is democracy, why democracy. Within this chapter we will cover some of the topics. These are definition of democracy, forms of government in the world, which government is better form of government, features of democracy, argument against democracy, arguments for democracy, and at last we will discuss about broader meaning of democracy. So let's begin this chapter with the definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. By seeing this definition of democracy, we reach on to the conclusion that democracy is a type of government which is made through people's participation. Now, democracy is originated basically from a Greek word which is composed of two words. These are demos and kratos. Demos meaning is the people, kratos meaning is the rule. Finally, democracy meaning is the rule of people. We have one more definition which is very well said line of Abraham Lincoln about democracy, that is, democracy is a government of the people, by the people and for the people. So in this way we see that democracy is a type of government in which a majority of the citizens take participation in the formation of government. Now we have one question. Do we have only one type of government in entire world? No. We have other forms of government also, that is monarchy, dictatorship, military rule. Monarchy is a type of government in which king or queen rules over the country. Dictatorship is a type of government in which absolute power is exercised by an individual or a small group of people. In military rule, military exerts complete or substantial control over the political authority of a country. So, by seeing all these forms of the government, we can say that we have many types of the government in whole of the world. Now, again we will have one question. Which government is better form of government? So generally we classify in whole of the world two type of the government, that is democratic government or non-democratic government. In democratic government, powers are divided in different organs of government, whereas in non-democratic government, powers are centralized in one hand. We can see other attributes also of democratic government as well as of non-democratic government. These are decisions are taken by majority in democratic government. In non-democratic government, decisions are taken by an individual. Democracy improves the quality of decision making as many of the people involved in decision making process, whereas non-democratic government doesn't allow this kind of process because all the authority of decision making lies in one hand. It enhances the dignity of citizens, whereas non-democratic government doesn't provide such kind of the facility to the people. In democratic government, it provides equality before law. In non-democratic government, there is no freedom of expression and people do not enjoy their rights. By this comparison of democratic government or non-democratic government, we reach unto the conclusion that democratic government is a better form of government in whole of the world. Now, we will discuss about the type of democracy which exist within the country. In our India, two type of democracy is followed, that is representative democracy and direct democracy. Representative democracy is a form of democracy in which the majority of people rule through their elected representatives. In direct democracy, it implies to the democracy in which every citizen must be able to play equal role in the decision making. In representative democracy, as we know, many of the people participate in the formation of government. So in such a way, a majority of people participate in the formation of government. And finally, representative is elected and then he rules or she rules over the country as per the will of people. Whereas in direct democracy, it is basically a form of government at village level in which almost every individual of the village gather together and take decisions on various issues, problems, and also give suggestions. So in this way, all the villagers took participation in the formation of rule and decision making. Now, to understand much better democracy, we will study about the features of democracy. Here we have 4 features of democracy, in which the very first feature of democracy is that the final decision making power must rest with those who are elected by the people. It means rulers are elected by the people, and this ruler in an indirect way rule over the country on behalf of peoples. Second feature is of democracy here. A democracy must be based on a free and fair election. In democracy, it means no cheating or malpractices should be involved in the process of election, and whosoever the representative chosen by the people should be elected or rule over the country without any biasness. Very next our feature is here, each citizen must have one vote and each vote must have one value. In this way, we see the person, whether he belongs from a rich family or from a poor family, when the process of election held, they both have equal value of their vote. None of the vote will be counted more in election. Now, the very next feature is here, that is a democratic government rules within the limit set by constitutional law and citizens' right. In this way, we see here that democratic government is bound with rule and regulation. It means representative who is ruling over the country cannot impose its own will because he has to work as per the guideline of constitution. He is binds with the law of constitution. In very next part we see we will discuss all these features broadly. So very first topic which is given here, that is, a major decisions are taken by elected leader. So we can understand this feature in more better way by understanding the instance of Pakistan. In Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf, he led a military coup in October 1999, and he declared himself a chief executive of Pakistan, and later he announced himself the president of Pakistan. By this, he took all the power in his hand. General Pervez Musharraf after had control over the Pakistan in 2002, he planned a referendum which gave him a 5-year extension of his ruling time. He announced a legal framework order by which he got extreme power for his rule. So now the question arises, what is legal framework order? By this legal framework order, General Pervez Musharraf announced in his framework that the president could dismiss the national or provincial assemblies. The work of civilians cabinet was supervised by National Security Council. Pakistan had elected representative had some power, but the final power rested with military officials and General Musharraf. This legal framework order gave Pervez Musharraf extreme power and he announced himself as a dictator of Pakistan. In this way, we see Pakistan is a democratic country but cannot be considered as a democratic country. This instance proves the very first feature of democracy. Hello students, let's begin our next lecture with the second feature of democracy, that is free and fair electoral competition. In a democratic government, each and every citizen has equal right to participate in election in a free and fair manner. We can understand this feature of democracy in a more better way by understanding the case of China. In China, elections are held regularly after every 5 years to elect country's parliament called National People's Congress. This National People Congress has the power to appoint the president of country. But the Chinese Communist Party or 8 smaller parties allied to it were allowed to contest election held in 2002 or 2003. It means before contesting election, the person has to be the member of Chinese Communist Party or other 8 smaller party. After every 5 years, whenever the elections held in China, the government was only formed by Chinese Communist Party. So in this way, we see that Chinese people do not have any other option to form a government. So we can say at last, China is a democratic country but cannot be considered as a democratic country. Now we will move on to our third feature of democracy, that is one person, one vote, one value. In a democratic country, each and every person has their one vote and each vote has its equal value. It means the person is belonging from a rich family or from a poor family, everyone has equal value of their vote. So to understand this feature of democracy, we will see some of the cases here. These are Saudi Arabia, Estonia, Fiji. As we know, in a democratic country, under universal adult franchise, every citizen of 18 years and above has the right to vote. But when we see other countries, one of the example of Saudi Arabia, as we know, in Saudi Arabia, till 2015, women do not had right to vote. So in this way, this feature of democracy becomes wrong. In Estonia has made its citizenship rule in such a way that the people of Russian minority find difficulty to get right to vote. In Fiji, the people of indigenous Fijian has more value of their vote than the people of Indian Fijians. So by seeing all these country cases, we get to know about that in these countries the value of vote was not equal. So here this feature becomes wrong. So these countries where the one person one vote one value feature was not followed can be said as these were non-democratic countries. Now we will move on to our next feature of democracy. This is rule of law and respect for right. As we already have discussed, in a democratic government, every function is performed under the guideline of Constitution. It means the ruler of the country cannot impose its own will. To understand this feature in a more better way, we will discuss a case of Zimbabwe. In 1980, Zimbabwe got its freedom from the white minority rule. And since independence, election always won by ZANU PF party. So its leader was Robert Mugabe. He uses unfair practices in election, by which he won election. Hello students, in our next lecture we will discuss about arguments against democracy. It means demerits which are exist within the democracy. Very first argument shows here that leaders keep changing in a democracy, which lead to instability within the country. It means in a democracy, a political leader which is chosen by people, if he doesn't work properly, then people may ask to give him resignation. So in this way, country may face a political instability. In our next argument, we see here it is all about political competition and power play. We know in democracy, many of the political parties participate in election to win election, to occupy its place in formation of government. For this, each and every political party, they give temptation to the people to win the election and use many malpractices. So in this way, it is all about political competition and power play. So we can say there is no scope of morality. Very next argument is here. It leads to delay in decision making. As we know, in democracy, many of the people participate in decision making. So it leads to delay. Very next argument is here. It leads to bad decision. As political leaders, they do not know the best interest of the people. So it may lead to a bad decision also. Here, ordinary people do not know what is good for them. They do not know which is the better option for them. So they choose anyone. they can make any of the political leader to rule over the country or to rule over a particular state. In this way, the political leader which is chosen by the ordinary people, he or she may not work properly. So we see by all these arguments that what kind of the demerits exist within the democracy. Now our next topic is here, that is arguments for democracy. It means what are the merits which are exist within the democracy. It means why democracy is more favorable. The very first argument is here, that is it is more accountable, as democracy is made with the participation of people, so it is accountable for the people. It improves the quality of decision making. As we know, in democracy, many of the people take participation in decision making. So definitely, whatever the decision is taken by the representative, that improve the quality of decision. In very next argument, it provides a method to deal with differences and conflict. Democracy is a type of government which deal with differences and conflict if it is arises among the people. If any of the conflict arise among the people, it try to solve. It has provided method, it had made judiciary to solve all those conflicts. Even and if any of the conflict arise in between of people and government, then also people may seek to court to resolve their conflict. Very next is here argument, it enhances the dignity of citizen. In a democracy, it try to maintain the dignity of each and every citizen. The person who lives within the country may live with its own respect. No one can harm a person's dignity. If it is found, it may be understood or considered as offense. It allows the citizens to correct its mistake. This is also an attribute of democracy. If any of the person does any kind of mistake, so there is a procedure through which person or a political leader may correct their mistakes. So let's discuss about broader meaning of democracy. At last, as we know, we will reach on to the conclusion about democracy. We already have discussed about features of democracy. We have discussed how it is good. We have discussed this also, that how it is bad. So at last we will discuss how democratic government rule over the country, as democracy is a form of government which is made through people's participation, a biggest majority which is allowed to take decision on behalf of the peoples. People in democracy rule through their representatives. This form of democracy is called as representative democracy, as many of the people participate in that and they choose their ruler by itself. So in this way, they cannot sit together and they cannot form law. So on behalf of the people, here representative take decisions and he rule over the country. Now your entire chapter is completed. Thank you.